Okay, we are officially recording. So, I guess we'll just start. Can you like introduce yourself and just tell us like high level who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Emily Campbell, and I am a senior recruiter with Loan Depot. So basically, I recruit remotely. I live in Indianapolis, actually, half the time in Indianapolis, half the time in Florida. So I travel back and forth, and I cover a geography mid Atlantic, so 3 states there, as well as North and South Carolina. So.
Very cool. So, Emily, we've been working together for a while. What initially brought you to me?
I think, like a lot of things in life, it was timing.
Mhm.
I believe I had just accepted or was about to accept the opportunity that I am in right now. And it was an opportunity that was going to give me more geography. Sounded very promising on paper, but I was quite terrified. So I thought this could be potentially the perfect time to have someone walk alongside me as I'm making this, huge transition with work, and knowing how that's going to spill into other areas of my life. So again, I think the timing of it, and the approach of what we would be journeying through together, kind of came at the right moment when I needed it.
Yeah. And what was the experience like? So we started working together. What was the experience like for you?
Yeah, what I loved about love, because we're still working together, about the experience is it's almost like, people say that like grief and emotions are not linear, but they're kind of circular, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I've appreciated that about your approach, in that it wasn't sort of like a straightforward path that you had already predetermined that you were going to take me on to reach, an end goal that we created months ago. It was more about moving forward, maybe going a little sideways, going back to it, maybe a little bit back for a week, but I needed it, and then jumping way far ahead. So there was a lot of flexibility there, which was really helpful, again, just because I was going through so many changes with learning a new job and trying to figure out how to incorporate that into my family, which sort of brings me to another point of what I appreciated. I've been in like personal counseling, to kind of deal with emotional issues, or say like a marriage issue. I've also worked with coaches that are just focused on work. But your approach kind of encompasses the whole pie. I was thinking about this earlier today, the game Trivial Pursuit with the little pies.
Uh-huh.
And it's like the only way to win is if you have all of the pie pieces filled in. And so what we would talk about, in the beginning is like, okay, how's your marriage? How's your finances? How are you spiritually? So kind of thinking about those pie pieces, and maybe like where I'm a little empty and feeling like I want to focus, or other areas where I'm like, yeah, that's kind of good. Like, I think I'm okay there. And sometimes, we'd go into a week and I felt like the Trivial Pursuit would just like launch it. Like it was just everywhere. And you
Hmm.
were okay with that. And I
Hmm.
needed that. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I love that visual of the Trivial Pursuit little piece of pie.
It
So
was
let's
like
talk
a win.
about like what are the things that are different in your life now from when we started talking? Because I think it was January of last year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Probably the biggest thing, and it was happening today before, we started talking, is sort of doing less while accomplishing more. I spent a great deal of time previously worrying about all of these things that I had to do. I'd walk into my day thinking, oh my gosh, I have to get this appointment. I have to get this hire. And I hit a point, as you know, when we were working together, had some things going on in my personal life, that there just was not enough capacity to hold myself to that same level. And so what I learned, though, is by sort of taking a step back and relaxing, and really just focusing on the relationships that I have with the people that I work with, as well as people at home, that it like freed up this creative space in my mind and helped me to form these really just impactful connections at work and at home. So I'm literally making sort of like less phone calls, but like the depth of the phone call is so much greater because I'm really leaning in to that one person that I have on the phone with me right now. And so I'm seeing like my conversion rates, talking sales here, increasing, and just sort of like my personal satisfaction in my relationships, my husband, my kids, my mom, my dad, by kind of slowing down, which again was not me when you first met me, going a million miles a minute, and I had all these things to check off. And one of the things I remember this, and I still do this, coming up with like a reward when something good happens. And what we came up with is my reward was going to be a nap. Mm-hmm. And, again, sort of that idea of, rewarding myself and relaxing, and just trusting that, through focusing on people that I, like you said before, would be attracting, sort of the right things to me, and the wrong things would sort of just fall apart. But I didn't have to worry about all of the wrong things to prevent them from coming in. It was more about focusing on the good, and then those would sort of fall away.
Yeah. And that has created some amazing changes in your life, because one of the things I think about when we first started, and I don't know if you remember this specifically, how many hours were you working when we first started every week?
Oh gosh, yeah, it was definitely, Saturdays and Sundays I would spend a couple of hours like preparing, getting ready, and then absolutely, early on, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, sometimes going until 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And again, it was impacting my family. I was exhausted, and it wasn't, it's not something that could be forced, I guess. Yeah. What I learned is that once I sort of released the grip of the fake sense of control that I thought I had, and I was smiling more and enjoying, my conversations and work more, these good things, really began to happen for me in a huge way. I mean, I'm sharing here that I'm doing less today, less worry, less, I guess, my checklist and all the things that I had to do every single day, doing slightly less, but then literally making double the income. Like I doubled my income last year, and more than surpassed a goal that I wasn't sure how I was ever going to achieve. And then now this year, I'm just like, oh yeah, like I've got that. I can 75,000, or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, so I think about that when I feel myself now getting to a stressed out level. I know that I need to step away, and I need to find some quiet time, some quiet space to, get creative and figure out what the solution is to whatever I'm feeling anxious about, versus before it's like, oh no, I got to keep going. Like if I just keep going, I'll get through it and I'll get to it and I'll figure it out. But again, finding that I'm figuring it out through rest has been something that was huge for me.
Which is super powerful. And I'd love to, because one of the other things that I think is super cool about the way you were approaching work is bringing more of your purpose and more of just who you are into what you do. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more to that too.
Yeah. And that's been an interesting one. Several positions ago, I worked in not-for-profit, and didn't make a whole lot of money, but it was, very sort of personally, satisfying to me. And, as I've moved into more of a sales space and, making more money, I sort of felt like I had to put that part of me on the shelf. I hadn't really been able to figure out a way to sort of weave it all together. But again, through our conversations, I started identifying that I actually do that, bringing that purpose in, sort of coaching and helping people to, identify their ideal career situation, whether it's with, the company I work for or not, but just sort of helping, folks along that path, and being authentic and open with what my experiences have been. And, just in doing that and really leaning into those conversations, I think other people open up as well. So yeah, it's made work much more personally fulfilling, again, because again, I didn't feel like I had to, kind of like Mr. Rogers, you walk in and you put your stuff in the closet and you put your shoes and your sweater on and you move on. And then when you leave, you change your outfit. Like, I'm still the same, person that I am. And I don't need to feel like anxious or worried about that. Like, knowing that there is a space for someone like myself who might be a little bit goofy, might crack a few jokes, might say the word a few too many times, but that I can still really help people, and I don't need to feel nervous or self-conscious about that, just to show up and be myself. And it helps people to show up as themselves as well. And then sort of together, when we're both ourselves, we can really accomplish some great things together.
Just really powerful. And one other thing I did want to make sure to call out is, I also remember when we were first working together, and you said I think it was your 10-year goal was to have a house down in Florida, and you have a place down in Florida, which is amazing. And how often are you getting down to Florida at this point?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't believe that I said that was my 10-year goal I was able to accomplish actually within a year, about 9 months. Obviously we had to make some changes, with our housing situation up here, but yeah, my husband and I are able to travel down to Florida, once a month for sure. We're getting down there. We're headed back down here in the next week and a half. And it is literally a dream come true. So, and again, we talk about this as well. Not always sort of just looking ahead, but like, I think if you put a goal out there for right now, like, why does it have to be 10 years? So what if it sounds impractical that I'm going to have a place down in Florida, right now? But by focusing on that, and again, some of the other changes that I made, with my family and relationships, it brought out some dreams of my husband that he wanted to do that too. And then together as a team, we were able to accomplish it. So I think sort of leaning into the present and being present in the present, and not always thinking, oh, well, down the road when that happens, that's when the really good times are going to be. You never know. You might be able to actually do something a lot sooner than you thought.
What is just amazing, just as you're sharing that, it strikes me that I do believe that modeling is the best of all teachers, and in modeling, being your most authentic self and stepping into your dreams, the ripples that created, not only within your family, but within your relationships at work, and just all of those people that you touch stepping into their own best lives.
Yeah, it's and definitely the sharing of the story. It's funny. Like, I've always said, oh gosh, I love Florida. Like, I just want to live in Florida. But it's like, I almost flipped it. Instead of like a complaining, I want to live in Florida, it's like, I really want to live in Florida. I really want to live in Florida. I wonder if I could make this happen. And it's like my brain, I think, started to sort of work on it in the back of my mind, and helped, some doors to open up. That again kind of made that possible. And I think it's really fun to share dreams, and again, some of the things that I do on the conversations, that I have with people, just to be an encourager. So it's, again, kind of sharing my crazy journey of getting remarried and blending families and selling a house and getting a place in Florida, and like all these things, people are like, wow, if you can do it, maybe I can do it too. So it's been fun to share with people that are close with me, what we've been doing this past year.
Yeah. So, and this might be my last question. I'm not sure yet, but so let's imagine that someone's on the fence and they're like, gosh, I met this guy, Brandon. I want to work with it, but I don't know. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I would think, probably two fears are probably what's holding someone back. It might be, financial. I think when you kind of put to paper the amount of time, that you get spent with Brandon, as well as length of time. So, the time in a session as well as length of time. Um, that's something to definitely consider. That's worth its weight in gold. And, then the other, I think, is sort of the fear of maybe, well, I've done this before and it hasn't really worked. I haven't had the results that I was after, at that time. Again, this was just such a unique experience for me compared to other types of counseling, whether it be like work coaching or personal development, in that this was so much more comprehensive. And the aha moments that I had during every single session, I think really blew me away. I was again thinking about that today. One of the things that Brandon likes to say, and it can feel a little frustrating, but it's really helpful because he's a good listener, is tell me what you're thinking right now.
Mhm.
And then there'd be silence on the other end. But again, I think it's really important that Brandon, like I said, initially, he's not sort of like guiding you down this predetermined path. He's listening for cues, and he'll hit the pause button, and he'll say that too. Wait, I want to hit the pause button. Tell me what you're thinking right now, or tell me what you're feeling right now. And so it sort of extracts out of you like a sponge, you know, stuff you probably don't want to share, but it's helpful. I mean, I think so often in life we gloss over those moments. Um, we might have a glimmer that we're onto something, but it might be slightly awkward or maybe a little painful or hard. So we just want to move past it. But again, Brandon, that's where he kind of puts the pause button. And every single session, I would have some type of an aha moment where it's like, wow, I really hadn't thought about it that way. And again, it's those thoughts, the changing of the thought processes for me, that has been the most helpful. That has changed sort of like my physical life. You know what I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. No, that's wonderful. And what else, if anything, did you want to share?
um yeah, I guess the biggest thing is, why not invest in yourself? Of all the things that you can spend money on, if you think about a small sacrifice, whether it be Starbucks or, a small little, mini vacation, when you think about the investment in yourself, and what you can potentially get out of this, I think Brandon is very helpful, especially if you're wanting to make some significant changes, or if you're in the middle of a change. If you're sort of like status quo, okay, fine. Maybe you don't need a coach like Brandon. But if you really are, someone that is open to sort of the vulnerability and the process, I think you get a lot out of it. I know I did. All I can say is, I guess the proof is in what I've experienced. And I went from being pretty darn stressed out, tired. I had some struggles in a couple of my relationships, personally. I was really excited about a new job, but I was scared to death I wasn't going to be able to do it. And here I sit today. I've doubled, my financial situation. I bought a condo in Florida. Just bought a car with cash. My relationships with my kids and my new husband are absolutely amazing. I look forward to him coming home every night. I share with him what we talk about with Brandon, so he's kind of been involved, which is fun. I don't know. For me, it was really, really impactful. So, I think it's worth a shot, especially if if you've been interested in it before. That means you're interested in it, but maybe it just hasn't been quite the right fit. So I think it's worth it.
Cool. Thank you. I think you're a rock star.
That's
It's
my
true.
cat. That's my
It's
cat.
and the cat and the cat. The cat is the greatest supporter of all,
She
sleeping
is.
on the couch.
She is. She's my emotional support cat for sure.
Everybody needs a cat.
Actually, the funny thing is there's two of them. Do you see
Oh,
the
I
other
didn't
one?
even notice that. I love it. And they're both so quiet. I wish my cats could learn from your cats.